Obey!
Game design can be a real head-scratcher sometimes. Some games really can't contain their excitement to bestow you with godlike powers, the arsenal of a deranged billionaire, or the superhuman strength of a killer gorilla who's on the run from the law. Power fantasies and the sense of control that comes with them are a defining pillar of what makes gaming so special. But what about when the tables are turned and developers decide to use control to overpower, deceive, or even manipulate the player? Take the prison escape in Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. When Nathan Drake reunites with his brother Sam after years of thinking he died in a bombastic prison escape, Sam shares with Nate the tall tale of how he recently got busted out alongside South American drug lord Hector Alcazar. And developer Naughty Dog isn't stupid. They really want you to believe this escape really happened. So of course, they let you play the mission and enable Sam Drake to spread his lies as an unreliable narrator by having you participate in the lie itself. It's later revealed that this escape never happened and was just a ruse to get Nate to help the game's actual antagonist get closer to finding some long-lost treasure.
There was no breakout. I bribed the prison warden, and your brother, he just waltzed right out the front gate.
But man, when you play the escape, it's hard not to get wrapped up in the excitement and feel like it really must have happened because you made it happen. Of course, Uncharted 4 isn't the only game that's experimented heavily with this concept. Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War's standout level, Break On Through, is one of the best examples of the technique that I think we've seen yet. What's framed as a flashback mission to recall lost memories quickly reveals itself to be a mental manifestation of spilling out your deepest, darkest secrets at the hands of your unreliable CIA handler, along with the revelation that you've actually been a captured Soviet soldier doing the CIA's bidding for most of the game's campaign. Break On Through employs an intriguing variety of techniques to deliver its detailed brand of game design disorientation, many of which it generously borrows from other games, but I think it nonetheless manages to stand out by virtue of its polish and pacing. So with that said, let's break down how the level works and why it succeeds. Break On Through immediately follows the late game mission End of the Line, where you fail to stop rogue Soviet agent Perseus from reverse engineering nuclear launch codes, forcing the CIA to take drastic measures to reveal his whereabouts and prevent him from starting a nuclear war. And under the pretense of a Vietnam flashback, you're guided by CIA handler Russell Adler through a so-called memory to extract the intel they need to go after Perseus.
Stay alert, Bell. You're the key to stopping Perseus.
You always have been.
You sure about this, Doc?
Earlier in the game, you give your brainwashed Soviet agent a new name and fill in some basic background info, and your codename, Bell, foreshadows this Pavlovian response you have to a certain phrase Adler uses every time he wants to activate your mind control.
We've got a job to do.
And going into Break On Through, Adler uses this phrase one last time in a desperate attempt to find Perseus.
We had a job to do.
But I couldn't help thinking I'd seen something like this before.
Get this. Would you kindly find that? Would you kindly find that? Would you kindly find? Would you kindly get this? Would you kindly head to Ryan's office and kill the son of a bitch?
Break On Through employs clever narration to control, deceive, and outright bully the player, all like here at the outset where Adler is immediately unreliable.
You ran forward and picked up an M16. Maybe it was another one.
More so, Adler is even willing to go along with your deviations from his script if it keeps you ignorant to your surroundings, like here if you decide to completely ignore his orders to pick up a weapon.
You went unarmed. All right.
Adler's narration is so immersed into the design of the level that even dying is linked to the memory operation that's being undertaken.
That doesn't sound right. You're getting confused.
It's not exactly the most original use of this narrative device.
Wait. That's not how it happened. Now, where was I?
This opening gunfight in a rice field is soon broken up by Adler rushing the narrative along by saying the enemies fled into the nearby tree line, not only keeping the pace of the level up, but also cleverly leading the player toward their next destination. And you can see here there's even some scripting in place that will instantly kill your AI squad mates when this event triggers. So you could follow Adler's hints and head to the tree line, unless you decide to ignore these directions and take in the view.
So you did nothing? What were you, in shock? Bell, we don't need to hear about how good the view was. Keep going.
So once you do decide to descend further into the jungle, you come to an evenly split crossroads.
The path split near a ruin, so he took the right fork, not the trail to the left.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Yeah, so this is not a particularly innovative device, but it is a great way to weave interactive narrative elements with level design. You can follow Adler's orders and go right, or be a mischievous little Soviet agent and scamper to the left. But let's assume right now that you're following all of Adler's orders. If you go right, you come across this brief stealth scenario which leads to the entrance to a cave or to a poorly concealed entrance into an underground Viet Cong tunnel. If you look around in this area, you can also spot some objects that are suspiciously out of place, like this large statue of Comrade Vladimir Lenin. So, if you keep following Adler's orders, you head through the caves where his narration cleverly spawns a bow and a shotgun for you to play around with. This is a great use of the narrative-driven design, which can constantly mash up the gameplay elements and could definitely be expanded on in future iterations. You'll then reach this absolutely giant Soviet bunker and enter through a bright red door, which leads you through to this long hallway and into a bunker where Perseus stands with his back to you. Before you can go any further, something goes wrong, and it's here the level really acknowledges the nature of the narration and the manipulation that's taking place, that even if you follow Adler's directions to a T, the seams of the mind control will still start to tear.
We almost had it. Let's run 6.
Okay, ready.
Bell, we've got a job to do.
But before we move on to the second phase of the level, let's rewind and see what happens if you decide to go left at the first fork. You come to this little skirmish by a shallow stream of water and end up at this bridge, where Adler urges you to use a zipline to return to the path he wants you to follow. But of course, we're steaming ahead, and here the road forks again. Left leads us to a short sniper sequence, and right into a classic Call of Duty battle in a small village. Both scenarios force Adler to improvise his script to keep the illusion as believable as possible, using his narration to again switch up your arsenal that suits the combat design. Each battle ends in a big, juicy explosion which comedically reveals the red door of the bunker. It's here that it might dawn on you that no matter which way you go, all roads do lead to a bright red bunker door, because ultimately Adler is in control, and all you can really do is slow him down and make things interesting in the meantime. But if you do disobey Adler, you enter this white void with a restraint chair and a TV, a much more illuminating space that makes it extremely clear that things are not right, which also reinforces that if you disobey Adler, you'll continue to break on through to the other side of this illusion. In the second phase of the level, night has now fallen over the battlefield. However, you still begin in the identical location as before and are now armed with a bow and silenced pistol and encouraged to stealthily take down your enemies, which is a great touch to keep this repeating scenario visually and mechanically diverse. Once you enter the jungle, you'll notice different objects and equipment placed around the environment based on whether or not you obeyed Adler in the previous phase. If you obey his orders, you'll see things from the bunker, like this filing cabinet, these ancient computer-looking machines up above, and even this see-through map. But if you disobeyed, you'll see various medical equipment, cameras and TVs among the dense jungle foliage. And as you come to the fork in the road, there's now a red light bulb hanging among a series of photographs, imitating a darkroom. This is a callback to an earlier mission in the game when you discover mysterious photos of what appears to be a nuclear weapon. It showcases how Adler's grip on you is becoming weaker and adds some great environmental storytelling into the mix. Of course, the bright red light is the way Adler doesn't want you to go down, as if it weren't obvious enough. The location of this red light changes depending on your choices in the first phase as well. If you again follow Adler's directions, you return back to the bridge, but this time there's the unsettling inclusion of Lazar, a squad mate of yours who you were given the choice to save or kill in the previous mission. When you get too close, he scurries off quickly, which has a borderline survival horror feel to it. If you went into the cave and obeyed Adler in the first phase, you'll be led into a nighttime version of the village battle, and once through the bunker door, you're met with this very simple projector puzzle, where you have to line up two sides of the red door, which again leads to the bunker room where Perseus remains with his back to you, and it soon fades to white. You can actually get this projector puzzle in a few different ways. Basically, so long as you've obeyed Adler in the second phase, you'll be given this projector puzzle. It doesn't matter what you did in the previous one, but that will determine where you access it. But if you disobeyed Adler and run straight through the bright red light, the bright red light. Don't fuck with bread right light. But if you disobeyed Adler and ran straight through the bright red light, then you'll eventually pass through another red door and be treated to a peek behind the curtain. Instead of a white void, you're now taken to this long hallway with a series of revealing rooms that all but scream in capital letters, "You are being brainwashed," capped off by being transported to the other side of this glass and having to get back in a restraint chair to proceed, which actually feeds in well to the themes of the level, that if you want to see how far the rabbit hole goes, you kinda have to jump back in yourself. It's in the third phase that shit officially hits the fan for Adler and his team. His narration becomes noticeably rushed and frustrated, really selling this feeling of him just not giving a shit about the illusion anymore and just desperately wanting to obtain your secrets. To keep things interesting, you're equipped with a powerful grenade launcher and are attacked by a gang of reskinned Adlers, which is such a wacky but endearing touch to the level that I think totally sells just how much reality is broken down. You can also notice a differently dressed version of Adler stand for a moment next to this shack and slowly walk behind it and disappear. So at this point, it doesn't matter if you've obeyed every one of Adler's orders, things are falling apart and there's no hiding it. Interestingly, the only real implication for your choices in the first two stages is the very subtle mashup of the different objects we saw before. If you obey in one phase and disobey in another, you'll see that the object from each decision will be placed together, which, again, very subtle touch, but I was pleased to see this level of attention paid to your decisions. It's just a shame no real gameplay scenarios were played around with based on your choices. I think that's the natural evolution of a system like this, and I think there's a lot to explore with this moving forward. If you come back to the bridge, the chaos of battle sits still. Another not-so-original device used in the climax of Titanfall 2's iconic level, Effect and Cause. Definitely go watch my video where I unpack the making of that level with its designers. At the crossroads of the third phase, you'll also find these ridiculous stone carvings of Adler, but if you've already taken these two routes in prior runs, they'll be locked off and you'll have to zipline down to the area below. There's actually a way to disobey Adler in all three phases, so long as you never enter the caves and instead proceed to the village, sniper, and zombie tunnel areas in any order. And whether you're a good little Soviet or a recalcitrant Russian, in the third phase you enter what I lovingly call the rabbit hole, where you can either crouch down and squeeze your way through to the other side of this hallway, or listen to Adler's ominous cues to turn around.
Turn around.
These unsettling sort of Gregorian chants will also play forward or backwards depending on the direction you're going in this section too. It took me some time to realize this, but it doesn't matter whether you push through the rabbit hole or turn around. Your destination in this area is determined by whether you obeyed Adler's directions. You'll also always fall through the floor like this no matter which route you take.
Bell, forget about the damn lab. I need to know about the bunker.
If you obeyed, you come to this messy, run-down bunker plastered with hidden messages and even what appears to be a design outline of the level itself, if I'm reading it correctly. Yet another creative touch that makes the level feel completely disconnected from reality. To progress, you have to log on to this Soviet computer and select between Perseus, Operation Greenlight, or Nova 6, the latter of which is in reference to the bioweapon central to the first Black Ops game's plot. But if you disobey, this area leads you to a long room filled with TVs, projectors, cameras, and restraint chairs, just like the ones that have been invading the jungle if you've been trying to escape Adler's grasp throughout the level.
We've known each other for years.
It appears the subject's programming is beginning to take hold.
Been through the hell of Vietnam together.
And what comes next is a clever use of a well-worn design trope. The rule of threes is as ubiquitous a game design tool as any, and here the fourth phase of Break On Through does a great job of playing with the device in a clever and disorienting way. After restarting the scenario yet again, Adler's patience has completely worn out and he instead just catapults you into the crossroads and conjures a bunker door out of thin air. If you continue to disobey and move through the level, doors begin to dramatically slam down into the ground until you're eventually teleported to a confined space with no other option than proceeding into the bunker yet again. This subversion technique has also appeared in Batman Arkham Knight, where this fourth canister is meant to put the player on edge and intensify the surprise reveal of the Joker.
Miss me?
Despite your choices on how to navigate the level, all roads in Break On Through inevitably lead to this final bunker, where you reveal to Adler what he's been looking for.
Once we control the Green Light Arsenal, we will detonate them all from the safety of Solovetsky.
Once Solovetsky is revealed as the location of Perseus's nuclear plot, you can either lie to Adler and company and send them into an ambush, or officially switch sides and align with the CIA, sparking a final assault on Solovetsky to stop Perseus for good. It's all a pretty paint-by-numbers Call of Duty affair, and although Cold War has some other interesting moments in its campaign, for me, nothing else comes close to being as intriguing or unique as Break On Through. In many ways, the level is held back by just being in a Call of Duty game, restricted to short and sweet affairs without the space to flesh out its ideas more. And the real impact of its design was kind of lessened for me once I realised just how many of its ideas were borrowed from other games. But then again, iteration is the soul of design, so I do look forward to seeing how other developers take these concepts and play around with them in future games and levels. But thanks for checking out this level analysis though. It's a bit different for me to talk so much about level design and not a developer break it down themselves. Like I mentioned earlier, if you wanted to see how Titanfall 2's signature level Effect and Cause was made, you can watch my little mini documentary for that here. Thanks again for watching, and remember, stay in control.